So I've got a long speech to give. You ready? No. A quick announcement regarding what's coming up for us in the next coming days at the main conference. I'm going to present to you the Interfaith Networking Zone. So the Interfaith Networking Zone is called Taking Action to Overcome HIV, Stigma, and Discrimination. It's part of the main conference. And what's exciting about it is you don't need to register to go there. It's free for those who haven't registered for the main conference. On the screen, and for those who are abroad, you can see that we're going to, the agenda has been posted on the Interfaith Health Platform main page, and you can download it from there. That's what it looks like, this big red square. You can click on that and you get something, please, yeah. You get the program. So it's a bit small right now, but I'd like to highlight a few of these. So the networking zone is a lively, dynamic space. Many of us will be there. Some of the workshops that we had will be done again there, or ones we weren't able to do because of time will be done there. But we also like to highlight, in red, on Saturday, 30th of July, we have the occasion to have a dialogue with the Executive Director of UNAIDS at 1:45 to 2:45, so please note that in your agendas. And also very exciting, on Saturday, the 31st of July, from 11 to 12:30, we have a dialogue among youth and faith leaders, also very exciting. And also that afternoon, we have time to dialogue with other high-level representatives of UNAIDS. And also, so that's Sunday at 1:30 to 2:30, and also on Monday to 11 to 12:30. So again, a very exciting space. All of you are more than welcome to be there and to continue discussions we've had here and to engage further. Regarding documentation and resources, everything you have seen and heard during these 2 days will be uploaded in the coming days to the Interfaith Health Platform. Also the recordings, so if you missed the session because you had to take a call, you can watch it again or read some of the documentation. Thank you.
And now, finally, brethren, we come to the end or the last session of our 2 days meeting or 2 days Interfaith Preconference. And we've had an opportunity to talk about many things. And we have had an opportunity to engage, to share, to laugh, to pray, to listen to one another, to dialogue, and it has been such an amazing journey. So we will be going to our last session, and just before that, just allow me to mention a few things. We have had 2 days of content, which was well packaged. I think we've had an opportunity to really listen to the experts, listen to experiences, listen to many things, which has been quite a great thing. We've talked or heard about data, we've talked about collaborations, we have talked about evidence-based interventions, innovations, new prevention technologies, tools to measure stigma. We've talked about the role of leadership, we've talked about integration, the need for resources, the role of faith leaders in advocacy, language use. We've talked about documentation, communication, M&E, and it's been very, very enriching for all of us. But there are 2 particular words that we have used so many times. Yesterday, the word love was used so many times, I think uncountable times. Today, we've talked about compassion. And over, we've mentioned the word compassion. We've also mentioned commitment. And I remember yesterday, Father Bob talking about a world that is broken and said, in such a broken world, we need to support more, we need to love more, we need to listen more, we need to ensure that we are there for people. And therefore, even as we come to the close, I think these are some of the things we need to carry on, because we are working and dealing with people, and our presence and our being there and allowing ourselves to be used of God will create such an impact. And therefore, as we hear the final words from the different speakers, let's also be willing to open up even to hear some of the key comments that will be coming along. So I want to invite Brian, and this meeting has been made possible by so many people, and we'll be using this opportunity also to appreciate the many contributions. And first, let's appreciate Brian and the very many young people. It's been exceptional having these very dear young people as part of this meeting, and we really celebrate you. Thank you.
So thank you, everyone, and we're really grateful for the opportunity to have young people around, and we're hoping that we'll be able to do more and more in future. And as Jane has mentioned, one of the key highlights was that we need to engage the stakeholders. We are the stakeholders, so we need to be engaged more, yeah? So I would just like to appreciate each and every one of you. Really much grateful for those who are both online and those who are here present physically. It's been such an amazing 2 days, isn't it? Yeah, we've really learned a lot. There was the keyword significantly, statistically significant. That's why you're here. So we are statistically significant. Yes, that was the word we learned yesterday. And just to mention but a few, that we are grateful for each and every partner who's presented, information we've gotten from each and every one of you, the contributions, the comments, and the information that has also come from our participants online. And not to forget again our key supporters for this particular conference, the UNAIDS PEPFAR initiative. We are very grateful for your contribution and for the continued support you've always provided us for the faith platform, for the Interfaith platform, and we hope that more and more is going to come from it. So in this juncture, I would like to welcome Laurel. A few of us is going to give a vote of thanks. As she comes, let's, yay. So Laurel is going to give us a few vote of thanks as we invite the rest of the guests. Thank you, Laurel. Karibu.
I have a new mask. It's harder to take on and off. Not sure if they did that on purpose so that we would keep them on. It's really an honor to stand in this particular space after seeing all of the people that I respect and admire so much who have held this space over the last 2 days. I want to apologize that I couldn't be here the entire time, but I have been here as much as I could. As some of you may know, I lead the community and youth engagement team at UNAIDS in Geneva. Our focus is on how we build and scale up and get more support for community-led responses. And certainly faith communities are so important within those responses. And in addition to that, every time we meet like this, I feel like we develop a community in this moment. So over the last 2 days, I feel like the people in this space and with us online, we have all together created a community that I hope I would say the affection, the love, the honesty, and the communication will continue. Sort of the best tradition of community is when we don't just all smile and agree, but we actually ask each other hard questions. We give each other the respect of asking the hard questions and the respect of giving honest answers to the best of our ability. So I want to just open up my computer so that I don't forget to say anything really important. that I would regret not saying after leaving here. So I want to give thanks to a number of people, and I'm afraid I might miss someone, so please feel the love. And I really need to specifically mention Julianne. Dear Julianne, Jacek, Father Rick, Brian, Ulysses. Maybe I should read faster. This is our planning team, and I just realized that so many people participated in the planning. I'm so grateful. I'm going to read the list now, and then we'll do thanks, or we'll do clapping all together. So John, Rita, Sister Karina, George, Manoj. Not everyone is here, but we're still really grateful to them. Ayoko, Violetta, Nkata, Jama, Professor Karama, David and Stuart, Duncan and Don, thank you all so much for the work to make this happen. Marc-Henri and the technical team, we're so grateful for your support. The interpreters, thank you so much. We couldn't have this kind of inclusive space without you, so thank you. Finally, all of you who are here in this space and everyone online, thank you so much. You've made this community happen, and we're really grateful. And particularly those of you online who have joined at hours that were not conducive, that we've had a lovely time here in Montreal in normal business hours, and so we really are grateful to all of you who joined in the night, in the morning, and every hour in between. So thank you. So I wanted to reflect on something that came to me yesterday. I had to leave this meeting to go speak at the IAS Preconference on addressing stigma. And what they wanted me to speak about was the People Living with HIV Stigma Index 2.0, and what we know in terms of the most important interventions that we should take forward to reduce stigma and discrimination. And I just felt that I needed to address something a little different than the question they asked me, which I think everyone in this room is an expert at doing. We answer the question that we think should have been asked, no matter what question was actually asked, in the best tradition of advocacy. I hope I was part of that. But so they wanted me to speak about what works, which is really important. And what I wanted them to do was to actually back up and look at some basic principles for how we address stigma and discrimination. And I walked myself into a corner. I don't think they know it. I think I covered it, I think I covered for it, but I didn't realize until I came back to this conference that the missing piece was the faith piece. And let me just briefly explain why. So what I said is that too often our work on stigma and discrimination is driven by this idea that people living with HIV refuse to do the things we want them to do. They don't get tested, they don't show up for treatment, they don't adhere to treatment. You know, they're uncontrollable, right? And I speak as someone you may well know who's been living with HIV for more than 30 years, and I would take a lot of pride in being uncontrollable. But it's a stigmatizing logic, right? This idea that we only care about people with HIV because they don't do what we want them to do. And if they would just find a way to go get the care, even while they're being mistreated and discriminated against, then we wouldn't have to do anything about stigma, right? Because the only problem is that they don't do what we think they should. Uncontrollable. And so I said we need to actually go back and look at that logic and think about why we're doing this work to measure and address stigma and discrimination. And it's not, I think, because we can't control people and we want them to behave like some decision maker feels they should, but it's because we actually care about human dignity, because people living with HIV are part of the fabric of our lives, they're part of the fabric of the human tapestry. People living with HIV matter. They're part of our families and lives. And when so I said that, I sort of made this argument that about human dignity, but it felt a little bit weak until I came back to this meeting and I thought, it's the faith community that really understands this language of love and compassion, of welcoming spaces, right? That it's a spiritual statement, really, to say that we care about every life. whatever spiritual tradition you come from. It's a spiritual statement to say we care about every single life has dignity, everyone is welcome. We don't have a human tapestry without every single colorful thread in it. And so I say that because I want to emphasize how important it is that we don't just stick to this rhetoric of, people as widgets that need to be moved on a conveyor belt from one place to the next, but actually really that we love and respect this full diversity of human experience and all of the people that are part of our human family. And that's what faith leaders and faith communities and faith traditions give us. And it really inspires me, and it means a lot, actually, to share this space and to be able to use these kinds of words in a conference, to be able to talk about love and compassion. So I just really wanted to share that with you because I'm grateful to this group for helping me come to that. And then I just wanted to bring back a few statements that were raised at the beginning of this meeting yesterday morning, because I think where we started is what created a framework for the kind of conversations that I think were really honest and meaningful. In questions that were honest and meaningful over the last 2 days. And so I just want maybe 5 things. This emphasis on rooting the HIV response in love. And I'm really happy that Brian has said this, that Reverend Jane has said this, that this idea, and Reverend Ken and Gideon, I think maybe had to leave, but I'm sorry. It's like the bright lights. You're the one that really put us on this track to say we need to do this rooted in love and statistically significant love. And I hope that if nothing else, we take that from this meeting. And that's what started the conversation yesterday morning. Valeria said that faith leaders can help us not die from hate. I mean, I don't know if there's any more powerful role in the world than to help people not die from hate. And if leaders do not know how to help us, they simply need to ask people living with HIV, because we can teach you how to treat us without discrimination. I think beautifully said. It's so important for us to keep. Father Rick, you spoke about embracing a theology of radical hospitality. I mean, that just gives me shivers. Let's take that with us. And now I'm nervous because I feel like I can't give the quotes from everyone I love in this room, but I just wanted to highlight one final thing that actually came from Ambassador John Nkengasong. Did other people hear him say at the very end that we have to support young people and that PEPFAR was going to really support young people? I should have asked Sandy before I threw this into my remarks. But I got so excited at the idea of perhaps additional support for faith communities and particularly for the leadership of young people. And I hope that as UNAIDS, as everyone in this room, anything we can do to support that to happen would really be a top priority for us. And with that, let me hand the floor back to Brian. And what did I do? You know what? And this is the second time it happened. I think you're going to know who told me who to thank when you realize who I did not thank. Could we please have a sustained round of applause for Francesca? Thank you so much. We love you.
You should never forget your host. That's a lesson learned. So next we're going to invite Sandy Thurman. Is she around? Yes. Hand of applause for Sandy as she comes.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is wonderful to see you all, and I hate that I didn't get to spend more time here today, but that, PEPFAR meeting, the other day job got in the way. I want to just second everything that Laurel has said, and sort of respect of our time and recognizing that everyone wants to go engage in some radical hospitality someplace at this time of day, that we need to sort of move along. I want to say just a couple of quick things and really thank yous, a couple of little thoughts about what we've heard in the last couple of days. First is yes to young people. Laurel, Dr. Nkingasong did say that, and he means it. It's a huge area of passion for him, and building in the next generation of leaders, and we all talk about that. So that was, so we're really excited about that at PEPFAR. Just a couple of themes for the last couple of days. There's the whole theme of sort of understanding what community means, and the focus of organizations and funders like PEPFAR on trying to really understand why we need to invest in communities, and not just why, but how we need to invest in communities in terms of building relationships that are sustainable over a long period of time to address all of the challenges we have in our communities and around the globe with respect to health. That can't be done unless you look at faith-based communities and the communities where we know we have long-standing relationships, history, and commitment and infrastructure in the places where we need to work. And I love sitting across from John, because our offices are actually across from each other. Just sitting across from John makes me feel smarter. I just can't ever repeat anything he said because I can't remember it. But still, it's this understanding that the language, it's not that we aren't dedicated or committed to doing the same things. It's like marriage counseling, sort of. You've got to get to the point where people can understand what the other is doing and saying in a way that puts you in their, understanding where they are. And I think that's so important for us to think about going forward. The other thing is the storytelling. I'm still so moved after hearing Jeannie White's story probably 50 times in the last few decades, how powerful and how important it is for us to be together and hear stories like that. And the importance of continuing to tell those stories, because for so many people who were in this room yesterday, and Jeannie talked about it a little bit last night, that there were people who didn't know who Ryan White. They've all been to a Ryan White program or a Ryan White clinic, but they didn't understand who Ryan White was and how important that was, and inspiring and meaningful it was. And we forget to tell our stories like that. And I think it's just a reminder to us that we have important messages, and we can't assume that people know, because back to the youth thing, we all are changing. We have new leadership. We need new leadership, but we need to equip them with some of the stories, not bore them with them, but some of the stories, and faith-based institutions are really great at that. We have extraordinary examples, too, that I know I missed some of today, of doing just unbelievable work, and our data show that. And we're not as good at telling the story of the impact that we have. And again, to John's point and to the other conversations, figuring out how we do that more. And this is an important time to do it as we look at reauthorizing, which in our sort of congressional language in the United States means refunding, deciding how much money we're going to invest for the next 5 years in PEPFAR and our domestic programs. So it's important for a couple of reasons for us to think about how we tell our story. The other thing is to those online. There are many things that COVID has challenged us with that have been difficult for everyone. But one of the silver linings in the cloud of COVID, I think, is that we have the opportunity, and we have finally learned, I think, and pretty much mastered, with a few exceptions, how to engage people here when we can be together and engage a whole community of folks out there who don't necessarily have the time or ability for whatever reason to be with us in the room. I don't want us to lose that, and we've seen just so many examples of why that's important. So I want to just leave with that. Just a couple of other things, just the themes. that I want us to not forget when we leave this room. One is that we've talked a lot about community. We've talked a lot about community leadership. Ambassador Nkingasong talked about that. And we've talked about also community engagement. But in his mind, he is absolutely committed that we're moving from engagement to leadership in communities, and we're not going back. And I think that's great news. We heard about comprehensive care, patient-centered care, compassionate care. He talked about yesterday, and we haven't heard this in a long time, he specifically talked about investing in social science. And so after being for many years now driven by the hard data, it's not that we don't have hard data in social science, we do, but to focus on the importance of social science, psychosocial services, mental health services is a huge shift in the PEPFAR program, and I think in many of our programs, and I think that's really a key place for faith-based organizations to engage in pastoral care as well going forward. And I just want to just close by just another round of thanks. I don't have to echo all of it, but just to thank Francesca, Ulysses, and the whole planning team for this extraordinary event again this year. I want particularly to thank Father Bob for being here. I realize that Francesca and I strong-armed you very heavily, but not having you miss this would just sort of rip part of the soul out of the conference. So I'm so glad that you're here to be with us. Thank you for that. And of course, to Brian, Yasik, Julianne, and Laurel for their incredible leadership in making this possible, and to all the people who participated and all of the really incredible presenters who shared with us information that we will take home with us, and information that connects us to each other in a deeper and more meaningful way. So just thanks to all of you. Know that PEPFAR is deeply committed to this work. We hope that we'll be able to work with the ambassador and convince him to invest even more time and effort into the work that you all do. But more than anything, just to thank you for being here, and I look forward to seeing you again in a couple of years. Take care.
So, last but not least, we'll be joined by Luvo Sobuza, who's joining us virtually. Okay. So, because seems like he's not ready, I will invite Father Rick to give us. He's okay. Okay. Lubo, nice. Hi, Lubo, can you hear us? Yeah, can hear you now. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So, I, from South Africa, I have been Asia for about 5 years. As has been said, everything that was said here is extremely helpful. And unfortunately, I've been attending every session that I attended. Yesterday, something was said to me, and it really touched my soul. One of the speakers did mention that testimonies often come from unexpected places. So he did make examples of in the Bible, prostitutes are often the ones that often testify, get to see the Lord. And when he mentioned that, just a few days before, I was reading the book of Joshua. That is when the prostitutes in Jericho hid those two and was deep with favor by the Lord, and said, out of all the so now that is just the taste of the love that we have been report here that what can you do for people who are living? How can you advocate as an religion? You know, as I was like listening yesterday, I was extremely goosebumps because I kept on saying how I wish all the religions would feel this way because in our sides, religions are actually discriminating and there's a lot of stigma. At some time when we speak of stigma, I do not actually blame people for stigmatizing because a stigma is
Thank you. Thank you so much, Luvo. Mark 16 to 15. Yeah? And he said unto them, what did he say? Go ye into the world and spread the gospel. Yeah. So the same thing Luvo says, let's not keep what we have here. Let's go implement. So I would like to invite Father Rick Bauer to end for us the word of prayer and give his statistically significant sermon. Father Rick.
Wow, and I'm standing between you and food and dinner and the end. Just a few thoughts. In our many faith traditions, prophets are those people who see the signs of the times and they advocate change, transformation. And so I hope each one of us, as my friend from South Africa said, accepts that call and that challenge to be prophetic, to advocate for change and transformation, that we move from fear and danger, but very real concerns, not to minimize that. But we move from fear to faith. We acknowledge that we can end HIV as a public health threat by 2030. I've been very honored in my career, my life, to always be challenged by mentors of first from CRS, and then Susan and Sandy, always challenged about data. We have to have data. But my very first mentor, Sister Dr. Bridget Corrigan, reminded me, statistics are human beings with the tears washed away. Don't ever forget that. We know theologically, spiritually, psychosocially, ethically, that stigma and discrimination are always wrong. And now the impact on health and education and integral human development is well documented. And so it urges us to a prophetic interventions in our own lives first. Got to be honest, we all have our bias, our stigma in us. Treat it in us, our families, our communities, our clinics, our countries, and our world. I'm deeply, deeply trained in the behavioral sciences. I'm a behavioral psychologist at the deepest part. And I learned early on, it's far easier to start behavior, stop them. So yes, we have to stop stigma and discrimination, but we have to start compassionate, comprehensive care, hospitality, welcome, and love for everyone. Thank you to UNAIDS for this 2022 global update. Laurel and all of you challenged me throughout the years. That report is 376 pages long. The word faith is mentioned once. We have been in this mission before UNAIDS. I promise you we will continue after UNAIDS. But if you want us to work with you, you have to mention us. Amen? Ambassador John Ngengasong strongly reminded us that you cannot eliminate any disease or public health threat without the human. Stigma and discrimination. And I loved what he said. It's not community engagement, those people, it's community leadership. That's that prophetic stance that we are called to. And Monsignor Vitillo reminded us that as people of faith, we respond to our vocation to teach, to serve, and to worship. And each of those reminds us of that innate dignity of every human person created in the image of the Creator. Susan Hillis and then Shobhana Ramachandran reminded us that this continuous data that's emerging, that is to reflect the effectiveness of our innovations that Susan Hillis kept describing over and over throughout the world, and the final session calls us to embrace M&E, and we know that sometimes faith communities are less. I want to put a different challenge to us. I believe communities of faith have led the world in how to do healthcare. We need to lead the world in how to do M&E. Not embrace what they do, but lead the world in quality M&E. Amen? Almost every speaker, and I'm going to repeat this, has said, love is our source, our motivation, our output, our outcome, our impact. It's a low-cost intervention that consistently lowers stigma and discrimination and increases treatment outcome measures. We have the evidence-based of Faith Matters and positive messages and the baby shower and faith-inspired health posts, all the interventions. And as Chip reminded us, we've got all the tools. We need the will. Not only the political will of those people, but our will. We take that challenge on. And then finally, we've said over and over, we need to share our story. This is so clear. And I hope, and one of my challenges to all of us, is that we've got to come up with a better way of sharing the story. Now, most of us in this room and many of us online are getting funding from UNAIDS, from PEPFAR, from the Global Fund, and God only knows, for the last 25 years of my life, it's revolved around writing quarterly reports. The data is there. We've got to figure out a way through our platforms, through these structures, to get the stories out there. But the best practices are there. We just got to figure out, as Monsignor Bob says, we can't hide this under the bushel basket. The light for the world to see. And finally, in a bit of irreverence, I'm going to conclude with an alternative prayer. The author is unknown, and it's called the Reverse Prayer of St. Francis. Let us pray. Lord, make me a channel of disturbance. Where there is apathy, let me provoke. Where there is compliance, let me bring questioning. Where there is silence, may I be a voice. Where there is too much comfort and too little action, grant disruption. Where there are doors closed and hearts locked, grant the willingness to listen. When laws dictate and pain is overlooked, when tradition speaks louder than need, grant that I may seek rather to do justice than to talk about it. Disturb us, O Lord, to be with us as well as for the alienated, the abandoned. To love the unlovable as well as the lovely, Lord, make us a channel.
Okay, and now that wraps up the end of our workshop. But before then, I'd like to invite the lovely Francesca. As she comes, we have to give her. No, you're coming up here, Francesca. No. No tea for you. I know you're chewing, that's why.
Okay, we are closing these 2 days together. Thank you, everyone. We have some music, and please don't forget the Interfaith Networking Zone from Saturday. And please look at the website of the Interfaith Health Platform for the full program of activities, faith activities during the conference. Thank you very much, and thank you also for the love.
Yes,